Welcome to Let's Be Well Together podcast. We're your wellness check-in team. Join us each week or when you can. We enjoy exploring wellness concepts and reminding you to make time for wellness.
This is episode 69.
We hope our territorial acknowledgement improves allyship with Indigenous people within a reconciliation process. We're on the Haldeman Tract, located on the traditional territories of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples. We acknowledge the presence and traditional knowledge, laws, and philosophies of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Let's Be Well Together podcast. It's Elise Seifert here with John Webster.
I am here.
Hey, John. So what's on your mind today?
I found a good environmental social media post on Brightly.
Great.
Which seems to have lots that I look at. And I thought, since we're recording this in Owen Sound, which is up in Grey County, and since there's some really cool things to do in terms of walks and whatnot around here, I'd go over this post, which is a summer eco bucket list.
Awesome.
All right, so I'm going to ask in each one of these cases, I'm going to tell you what it is and ask if you're planning to do any of these things. And I know the first one is something you could do because you live like a mile away from a beach.
I do. I live very close to Kelso Beach. It's a beach I frequent very often.
So is it possible for you in this community to host a beach cleanup?
Wow, that would be a great idea. And I think that would be an awesome activity to do, to go clean up the beach. I think it's possible. It would be a lot of work to have to host it, I think. But definitely possible for Stephen and I to go down one day and just to try to pick up some trash that we might find. I know that when we go to Kelso Beach in the springtime, there's often a lot of trash that's left, either that's washed up on the shore, which is really defeating. We've found things from tires, so full car tires gets washed up on our shores, to bottles. And then there's also things that people leave after they've been at the park. So maybe after they've cleaned up after their dog, they drop the bag into the snow. And after the snow melts, it's still there. So it's really defeating to go in the springtime to see all of the garbage that's left. So I think that's definitely something Stephen and I could aspire to do this spring, is to go to Kelso Beach with a few bags and pick up some of the trash that we find.
So something that popped into my mind is I used to be in a Rotary Club.
Right.
And we had a section of a path in Kitchener, a couple kilometers long, that was kind of ours to clean up.
Okay.
And I got to say, you just reminded me, like, it really frustrates me with those doggy do bags.
It does,
like, people take the time to go out. They take the time to pick it up.
Yeah.
And then they just throw it somewhere where they think no one will see it.
I know.
Or even they don't even care. They just like put it somewhere. Mm-hmm. I can't stop them from doing that, but we can clean it up. What occurs to me is a couple things. And I think a lot of times too, people give up before they start because they're like, something's not possible.
Oh, definitely.
So in this case, it's a public beach. Maybe there's rules about what you can do on a public beach. Maybe there's not access to garbage containers and whatnot. But I bet you, if you either contacted a local Rotary Club to find out if they already do this.
Yes, and maybe I could participate.
Yeah, or they might say, you know what, we don't. It's a great idea. There's all kinds of clubs, not just Rotary. There's Kiwanis, there's Lions, there's all kinds of stuff. If you
Definitely.
just picked up the phone one day or sent an email to these guys and say, hey, by any chance, do you guys clean up Kelso? Because if you do, I wouldn't mind helping.
Definitely.
Or even just calling the city and saying, hey, if me and 10 friends want to go down and pick up a lot of junk on Kelso, is that something we can do? And they might say, knock yourself out.
I think they would love it.
Or they might say, well, we're actually doing that on, the third week of May.
Exactly.
Join us.
Yeah, I think it's a little daunting to think about having to organize an event, but you're definitely right. There are ways that I could be an active participant in such an event.
It's a really good point. You want to think about how much work you want to put yourself to. So for example, if you just say, look, I just want with 10 friends, it might not be the full show, but with 10 friends, I want to walk down there one day and spend 2 hours and pick stuff up and throw it in the garbage. That's very doable.
Very doable.
So then you just have to find out if you're allowed to, or if there's any ways they can make it easier. If, on the other hand, you want to do this massive community project, that's pretty daunting, and that would be a different job. And I'm not saying not to do it. I'm just saying that that's more work. So pick the way you want to do it. Okay, let's move down the list. So what about this? This seems like a pretty easy one. You planning to go on a hike?
100%. I know in this area, we have beautiful walking paths. There is a specific bluff I've been trying to find, but I haven't been able to find exactly where the path is yet. So that's a goal I have this summer, is to find this particular bluff, because they have spectacular views of farmland, forest, and then the water.
And the other thing for us is we have a condo in Collingwood. Now, we don't get access to it for a lot of the year, but there's always a month here or 3 weeks there where we get access. Our sister-in-law, Lori, found a really awesome book with paths in the area.
Nice.
And not only where the paths are, but really fun things to do along. So we bought that book.
Oh, awesome.
So that's another thing. You'll have to come and join us, do some hiking around the Collingwood area. And it's, not just in Collingwood, but within like 30 miles of it.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a lot of fun.
I would love that.
What about this one? Visit your local farmer's market.
Ooh, yes. I definitely plan to do that this summer. We have a local market here downtown. I used to actually live on the same street as the market, so I would frequent it every week, which was lovely. But there's a market that I like to go to in the summertime called the Katy Market.
Right.
It's about 20 minutes away from here, and it's a farmer's market as well as a livestock auction. It's very interesting to watch that piece as well. So that's a place that we love to go to. How about you, John? Are you hoping to visit any farmers markets?
Well, we're so lucky to live in KW area.
Yes.
Because we have close by, not only do we have a Kitchener's farmers market right downtown, and Sheila and I love to bike to that. So we'll probably bike there 10 times this summer.
Amazing.
But we also have the amazing St. Jacob's Market. It's just past Waterloo, and it's just incredible. And sometimes it's crazy, actually. The last little while, like the last few years, we'll go out there. It almost feels like a theme park, like you're at Disney World or something, because there's so many people.
There's so many people and tourists.
Yeah.
Who come on their buses.
Yeah. And I just love that kind of, people are walking around going, wow, this is amazing. And I'm like, yeah, it's amazing. And it's in our backyard.
I know. I haven't really found any other market quite like the St. Jacob's Market. It's so unique and it's just incredible.
Yeah. So you'll probably see us there at least 5 to 10 times this summer as well. And actually it goes all year. It's just not open the same hours and there's stuff indoors. So like we'll go to the St. Jacob's Market at least once a month, I would say.
Oh, yeah.
But it's a good to put on a summer bucket list for the environment as well. I'm going to actually skip start a garden. I'm going to come back to it just because as I'm looking at this, it says try a low waste DIY, which I assume is do it yourself. Do you know what that might be?
I'm trying to think a low waste DIY. So maybe something that you can, what my mind goes to automatically is using recycled materials to create something yourself. So I know something I've seen is using an old t-shirt to create a grocery bag. So that's what comes to my mind. But I think many people could interpret this in many different ways. Okay.
Well, let's just skip that one because it's something I want to look more into to try and understand what they're suggesting. But let's go back to start a garden. You do a little bit of gardening, don't you, with your vegetables and stuff?
We do. So we started our first vegetable garden last year. And in our vegetable garden, we grew cucumbers, tomatoes, and we grew some herbs. So next year, we're going to continue with some of those items. And we would also like to add strawberries to our garden. So I'm pretty excited about adding a fruit to that mix. And last year, along with our garden, we started to learn how to can some items.
Oh.
So we took a lot of the extra cucumbers that we had and we had created pickles. And we took the tomatoes and we had created salsa that we canned. We ran out of the salsa already.
Nice.
And yeah, we're not quite at our next season yet. So that's pretty exciting. And we're going to run out of our pickles, I think. So I think we made the right amount. And there's just something about eating the food that you just brought from your backyard that just makes it taste so much better.
I know. And you're like, I can't believe this is free. It's not free, but it feels free. Like it's crazy.
It feels free.
When you say canned, do you actually use jars or cans?
We use jars.
Okay. That makes sense.
They call it the canning process, but it's within glass jars.
Okay. So the next one on the list, I know for a fact we're not going to do, it's go camping. The reason is because Sheila just doesn't like camping. Now, I think camping is amazing. There's lots of people who love camping, so don't get mad at me when I say that. But it's just not our thing.
Yeah, and same with us. I know a lot of people love to camp, and that is great, but that's not our jam.
Yeah. Okay, and the last one, start composting. The good news there for us, again, living in Waterloo region, we're lucky. I mean, we do our composting, and they pick it up every week, right? So, and it's amazing. Like, that's another thing when that person from the Waterloo region waste management came to our place. They actually they told us how quickly it turns into dirt and then people pick up the dirt and they use the dirt. So
that's really cool to learn.
We're pretty good at composting. And I just assume that that's available to a lot of people, but I'm guessing that a lot of people outside of our region don't have that
And we're one of those regions that do not have a composting system. I know that recently there was an election for our city councilors and they had come door to door, and I had expressed that I really wanted a composting system. And from what I understand, it's something that Ontario will be implementing soon.
Okay. So do you actually compost?
So we personally do compost. We were very lucky that when we bought our house, they left us 2 large tumblers. So what we do is we put our composting materials into the tumblers and you spin them, and they're very warm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we have to put it in, spin them maybe 2 to 3 times a week. And that helps to create our composting material, which we then use for our garden. I think it's a little more complicated than I know. I think there's more information out there that I don't really know about with composting. So I think I still need to learn more about how I can balance it correctly. Ours is kind of mushy right now.
Okay. But you've actually used compost that you made?
We had, yeah.
That's amazing. And yeah, because I think the other thing too is if you have the container that's stationary.
Exactly, yeah.
You should look into, how do you mix it? And there's different things that could probably make the process work better. And it's definitely worth looking into and reading. So there you go. The summer eco bucket list.
Lots of great things to try.
Guests are giving their time, expanding our minds.
Today's interview is in the category of social wellness. I'm happy that I work at a law firm that's proactive on social and wellness initiatives. I'm glad to connect with Gowling WLG's Head of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, DEI. Welcome, Shereen Samuels.
Hi, it's nice to be here with you, John.
Shereen has over 23 years of experience in DEI workplace initiatives. They include change work, curriculum development, and group process facilitation. In her profession and craft, she offers experience in leadership, policy development, strategic planning, communications, board governance, and risk management. She also has extensive experience in senior management and academic research. Shereen identifies as Black, queer, first-generation immigrant, cis woman of South Africa heritage. She is a creator of the Meaningful Inclusion Matrix, a framework to guide organizations in becoming more inclusive. So Shereen, thanks for doing a couple interviews with me. This first one focuses on anti-racism. What is it and why we should learn about it? I and other firm members took an eye-opening anti-racism course last year. I considered myself not racist. I was surprised to see that there were many concepts that I didn't appreciate. So can we maybe start by talking about what is anti-racism? How do you look at it?
Well, I love the way that you introduced that, John, because I think that what you just said really encapsulates exactly how lots of people feel about the topic of anti-racism, and that is that the goal is to be not racist. And it's fair. I think that's language that we were all brought up with. And I think that the difficulty with trying to be not racist versus being anti-racist is it puts an enormous amount of pressure in the wrong place, right? So when I think about not racist, I think about I as an individual having this enormous constant pressure to be behaving in some sort of perfect way, right? And if we think about that for a second, it kind of implies that racism comes from individuals. And I think that that also is a belief that we've probably largely grown up with, is that notion that racism is embedded in individuals and individuals have to combat it or wipe it out by sort of trying their hardest at every moment to be not racist. And that's kind of the root of when you hear people saying things like, I don't see color, and, I wish color just wasn't a thing. And, all of those sentiments, I think, come from that root, that source, that sort of desire to, or pressure to feel like you're constantly trying to be this perfectly not racist person. What anti-racism speaks to is that racism isn't rooted in individuals. It's rooted in structures. It's rooted in our societal definitions of right and wrong, our societal definitions of who is designed for power, who do we trust to hold power, and who do we trust less, right? So those ideas are built into everything. They're built into laws, they're built into rules. I'll give you an example. When we think back in Canadian history, it was see if I can remember my Canadian heritage moments. I think it was 1920 when women got the right to vote, right? So that's an example of structural discrimination, right? Where you say that because you are a woman, we trust you less than we trust men, right? We trust men to vote and govern the country. We trust women less. So that's an example of what I'm talking about and how these things are structurally defined. Another example is when we think about the Indian Act, and that under the Indian Act, until the 1950s, Indigenous people weren't allowed to engage with the legal system, right? They were essentially treated by the law as children. So they couldn't hire a lawyer. They certainly couldn't be a lawyer. And all of that, again, it speaks to who do we trust with power versus who do we trust less or not at all, right? So if we think then about this notion of who we trust with power as really embedded in all of our structures, and then all of us grow up inside those structures, right? We all grow up surrounded by these structures, taught that these structures are right. One of the first things you're taught as a child is you trust policemen and you trust judges and you trust that the system that exists around you, it exists to keep you safe and it is the best it can possibly be, right? So we're taught to trust the systems, even though the systems have these biases built into them. So if we think about the frame in that way, then racism is not the responsibility of individuals. It is built right into the systems, built right into the structures, and all of us have been taught it since birth.
The systemic nature of it, I really got me thinking when I took the anti-racism course. So here's my personal perspective. I used to like to think, I wouldn't really say it, there weren't many places to say it, but I used to think the color of a person's skin is like the color of their hair. Mm-hmm. Why would I treat somebody who's blonde differently than I would treat a brunette or a redhead?
Yeah.
And that gave me some comfort. And now I realize that I was kind of missing the point about it not being up to me, but I was also missing the point that what I wasn't looking at was maybe to me, the color of your skin won't matter, but maybe to you it will because of what you've gone through as part of society and how the system is built. And so 100%. That concept that I had about, well, I'll just say that it's like the color of the hair, I was kind of blinding myself to that systemic side of it.
That's exactly it, John. And I think that, so then when we talk about what anti-racism is, it's saying not just that, my participation in the system ends with saying I'm not racist, right? And I think this speaks to exactly what you were saying. If I simply say, well, the color of your skin doesn't matter to me any more than the color of your hair, then I'm saying my responsibility to engage and be aware is discharged, right? I'm done. There's nothing more for me to do here. When we take an anti-racist approach, we say, regardless of what I as an individual believe, I understand that the structures are built to trust some people more and other people less, and to give some people more power and other people less. And if I know that to be true, then it's not just my job to not see color. My job is to look at the ways the structures are unfair or unequal and do what I can as a person to change that, so that people do have equal access, right? And can be heard. So I think that's the difference between not racist, which says my duty stops at, I can't see it, therefore it doesn't exist. Anti-racism says it may not be part of my experience, but I understand that it is built into structures. And so my responsibility, if you like, should I choose to accept it, is because I live within these systems as well, as a Canadian. I vote for people based on what they say about how they think the structures should stay the same or change. I support with my dollars as a consumer companies that are also supporting public figures. There's any number of ways that we as people, as individuals, exert power over the systems and structures, and just acknowledging that is part of the responsibility is seeing that there's inequality in there.
What's interesting there, though, it's beyond just, my personal involvement. Part of my personal involvement is taking a stake in social wellness. Part of my, so I do have to personally take steps, but I can't end it at just fixing myself. I have to try and fix the social structures. Now, I have a particular kind of blinder on for the concept of social construct. It's something I'm trying to better understand. And so anytime I have a guest who's mentioned the word social construct, I try and fill in that picture a bit more. So you're not expected to know everything about it. But when you hear concepts like race is a social construct and racism is a social construct, can you help me try and understand how you see that?
Absolutely. Okay. So, first of all, the basic notion of a social construct is that it exists because we as a community will it into existence. Money is a great example, right? The pieces of paper that we use, or the cryptocurrency, or our debit cards count as tender. They count as worth something because we all agree that they do. And that's the only reason that they work. If a bunch of us decided tomorrow just to stop believing it, we would start to create problems. And we see this with crypto, right? Some people believe crypto is real and some people don't believe crypto is real.
Right.
So, how valuable it is very sort of vulnerable to that, right? Money works because we all decided hundreds of years ago, pieces of paper count. And so that's an example of a social construct. So the concept of race, we don't even have clear agreement on what race is. Okay. So when we go back 400 years to Shakespeare's time, he considered being French a race, right? He considered being Jewish a race. What race even means is very, very friable in people's heads, right? It can be cultural heritage.
So
can
I interject for a sec? So what I'm hearing you saying then is so when we're talking about social construct, at a certain period in history, we might construct the description of race one way. And at a different period, so back in Shakespeare's day, it might have had to do more with nationality. Yeah. And then at another time, it might have more to do with the color of your skin. And maybe another time it has something to do with ethnicity. But I think I understand what you're saying, that we see it as a social construct because we're constructing it differently in different time periods. We're constructing
it differently over time. Let me give you another one that might blow your mind. If we think about what it means to be white, and we tend, as a society, we tend to shy away from talking about whiteness. But if we think about what it means to be white today versus what it meant to be white 150 years ago, if you were to ask an Irish person if they are white today, they would likely say yes.
And right? I think most people would say that they are.
I think most people would likely say, you point to an Irish person, is that person white? Chances are excellent that we're going to think that that's a white person. But we know that if we go back 100 or 150 years, it wasn't uncommon for people to have signs in shop windows that said things like, no Irish, no Black people, using pejorative terms, no Irish, no Black people, no Polish people, right? Like Polish people were lumped in there, Irish people were lumped in there along with Black people. So it's not just about the color of your skin, clearly the concept of race. And so if whiteness can, in 100 years, change that much, it's not based in something fundamental. It's not based in something essential. It's based in something that changes as society changes. That's the fundamental basis of a social construct, right?
So we change what we agree on as being X or Y.
Mm-hmm. And who gets to say?
Right.
Who gets to say you are now white?
Well, the thing is, it's almost like it changes so slowly over time. I don't remember. That's new to me when you're saying Irish people, Polish people were treated as a race. I believe it because I know that there was discrimination, but
absolutely,
I'm guessing things changed slowly over time. And, for a long time, it kind of weaned out and then they started getting grouped in with white people. All right. Now I'm going to turn to the last question soon, but just before we do that, the one last thing I just want to ask, because we've only been able to just scratch the surface, but I still think it's better to have some info than none.
Yeah.
But what are the workplace advantages to anti-racism training? And does it change behavior at work?
Well, it can. I mean, I think one of the complexities of this work is that we talked about how it can't be rooted only in individual perspective. It has to be understood as a structural issue. But the fact is that if we don't, as individuals, understand the problem and have some kind of commitment to doing something about the problem will never go away, right? So even though the problem is structural and we don't, own it or bear guilt for the structure being what it is, at some point you have to get people to look at the fact that the inequality, the inequity will never shift as long as we stop at, I am not racist, I don't see color, therefore I'm out, right? As long as people are stopping at that point, we never get to the point where we look at the structures and consider what change can happen. And particularly in workplaces are a place where you can actually get traction and make change relatively, and I mean that word relatively, quickly, right? Like much faster in a workplace than you can, say, at a whole society level, right? Because a workplace is a small contained system. But in order to do that, there has to be some critical mass of commitment by the people in the workplace that it matters to do it, because it's not easy. And so that to me is why things like anti-racism training matter, because they do what it did for, you and other firm members who attended the sessions that we held. It helps open your eyes to the fact that not racist isn't far enough.
No, that's true. And I remember I was in that session and you had to go through, and I've already talked a little bit about this on the podcast, so some listeners will remember it, but there were a bunch of expressions. And the question was, why are these expressions problematic or whatnot? And there were some, I'm like, I don't know what the problem is. Like, and one of them was, we all have a chance to succeed and go as far as we want type thing. Yeah. And, it really opened my eyes. And then I started appreciating the difference between not racist, anti-racist, and the systemic side. And then I saw this social media post. And if you can imagine this, imagine a level that you're trying to get to. And on the left-hand side, it's only 10 stairs to get to that level. Mm-hmm. And on the right-hand side, it's 100 stairs to get that level. And exactly. the person at the top is standing on the third step, and he's looking down at the person who's on the bottom of the 100 step saying, what's his problem? Right. And I finally get that. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it was great for me. It planted a seed that I'm not sure what eventually will grow, but I think you're right. At least now I'm starting to understand some of the basic concepts from which I can move forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And can I just say this? Mm-hmm. I think that, I'm a big believer in using as the foundation for how we think about this, the concept of community, like we want our communities to be healthy. We want our communities to be connected, and we want people to thrive in our communities, right? I find that, politics at the municipal level, for example, tends to be some of the purest politics,
right?
Because that's when you're talking about the well-being of your next door neighbor, right? And that's when it's hardest to say, I don't care about that guy, right? That's when it's hardest because it's someone you know. And so at the point where we can say, I'm going to behave as though this is my community, and I want everyone to be able to thrive in it. That's the point where I think we feel the impetus to try and move towards anti-racism rather than just being not racist.
No, you're right. And when I think about it, the local politics, whether it's at city level or region level, I think it's also less polarized, right? It's not as party structured, and there's a lot more cooperation and working together and finding a way forward.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, we're at the end, and I ask every guest the same question. It's in the context of our show being about wellness and my own theory that there's many areas of wellness in our life, but at any given time, it's really hard to keep them all going. So we do this mini wellness check-in. Are you currently neglecting an area of wellness in your life? And if so, can you think of even one thing you can do to foster wellness in that area?
This is interesting. And it's not, I think my answer is, it's not necessarily connected to what we've been talking about today, but for a long time, I think I struggled with movement, and I'm talking about movement as distinct from exercise. And I've read a number of books lately. We've got one on the coffee table right now called The Joy of Movement. that talks about the fundamental role that movement plays, not just in physical wellness, but emotional wellness, social wellness, mental, all of it, right? That we are, as physical beings, our brains were built on the principle of movement. And so I've really been taking that to heart, because I think I grew up with this kind of notion that I got from somewhere, that if I wasn't sort of sweating hard, and if I wasn't really, like pushing myself and exerting myself in really painful ways, that it didn't count. And so I think the thing I've been trying to do recently is be much more compassionate with myself and just try to move and find joy in movement.
That sounds amazing. Now, I am married to a dancer. And so she's constantly,
Nice.
She's taught dance, she's done dance. And I mean, something will come on, or she's just in a good mood. She always incorporates these little movements, and she has a job where she does lots of movement. And I think it does her a lot of good. And so I hope you have some fun doing that.
Yes, that's the goal. Yeah.
Another message we try and send out on the show too. One of our main messages, Shereen, is that we like people to think about incorporating physical exercise and movement as part of their everyday life. We even have a little segment called Move That Body, just to say, hey, move that body. And one of the messages we send is it doesn't have to be high intensity. It doesn't have to be punishing your body. And some of the best things you can do are go for walks or do anything that involves a lot of movement. So I wish you all the best in that. And I hope you start feeling better when you start getting time to do more movement.
Thanks so much, John. It's been a pleasure.
I'm a retired artist, dancing through life. Hi everyone, it's Sheila here. I am hijacking Cameron's starving artist. As some of you know, I was once a starving artist many years ago, but am now a retired artist. I owned and taught at dance studios for over 30 years. And with that, you gain a lot of experience. But today, what I wanted to talk to you about was feeling the music. Have you ever listened to music and it actually makes you sad or happy? Sometimes when I'm listening to music, I can see trees swaying in the wind. I can feel the snow. It actually makes me cold when I'm listening to some songs. Or warm and calm and so many emotions. Listening to music can just enlighten your whole spirit. It's quite interesting. But as a choreographer, I can actually hear movement in the music. When I'm listening to songs, I can see kids running. I can see turns, jumps. I can see sadness. I can see sways and growing and shrinking and so many things that the song just tells me that I can create so many beautiful images, which is exactly what you want. When you're choreographing, you have to pick a theme. I really like to have a theme for my dances, something that has a start and an ending, tells a story that people can understand. And then from there, pick the music that works with it. So just to give you an idea, if I'm working with young kids, maybe I want to do a clowns. So I want to have pretty happy music, interesting, funny music, maybe that's movement and very busy. So you find a song that works. And then from there, the choreography goes. Jumping, turning, whatever the music tells you what to do. And then you have to, again, adjust your ability. Depending on how old your kids are or how good they are, you work your choreography around that. And that's how you do it. It's a lot of fun, but also it's really hard to listen to music when you're a choreographer because you can't just stop your mind from turning. You're constantly choreographing all the time. You're listening to music and you're like, this is a great beat for jumps. Ooh, this song would be perfect for turns. Oh, I can see this. I can see that. So sometimes I find it hard to listen to music and shut my mind off, but I try or not, depending on what I'm doing, because sometimes you need to focus on what you're doing and sometimes you can just let your mind go. When you're on the dance floor, if you're not choreographing, just try and stand on the dance floor or maybe in a spot wherever you want and listen to the song. See if it tells you what to do. See if you can hear the turns or the jumps or the sways or the bounces or the rolls. And just let your body do it.
Don't think about it too much. Just feel it and do it. You want to almost feel the music and just send it right back out there. And now you've learned a little bit about choreography, hopefully, and a little bit about the dancer's life. Thanks for listening, and I'll hijack real soon.
We love our listeners and thanks for joining us. Please help spread the word about Let's Be Well Together podcast. Follow us and rate us on Spotify, Apple, Google, or your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Instagram at lets.be.well.together and let your friends know about us.
Move that body like we're meant to do.
Hello, everyone. It's Elise Seifert here, joined by Julie Wilson. Hi, Julie.
Hi, how are you?
I am doing great. Today, we're here to talk about exercise snacking, which sounds really fun. It kind of makes me think of having, some chips in a spin class. But actually, in reality, exercise snacking is just exercise in a small form, so a snack form. So I had first read this on an article I found on Global News. So it was written by Sam Thompson and Lauren McNabb, posted on February 7th, 2020. And the article is called Have an Exercise Snack and Improve Your Health.
And you sent that to me and I loved it. I just thought that was the best little tagline, exercise snacking. Like you can really get your head around little snippets of time. I don't know. I can manage exercise snacking. I can manage little snippets. Going to the gym sort of sounds like, okay.
So much work.
But exercise snacking, little snippets of time, it's great. I loved it. I really loved it.
Amazing. I think that's the one piece of feedback that people say a lot about exercise is who has the time. It's
right.
A lot of work, you have to prepare your gym bag. You have to sign up for a gym or you have to prepare a space in your home. And a lot of people just don't want to make that kind of time for themselves. Whereas exercise snacking, it just sounds so approachable.
And, you could just even put something, when you're working from home or at work, just have a little Post-it note or something and just write exercise snacking or on your whiteboard or something like that. And when you look at that, it's like, oh yeah, okay, mid-morning, time for my snack. And, just get up and move. I just think it's a great little term. Exercise
I agree.
snacking.
Oh, definitely. Because who doesn't love a snack? I
know, right? It's a positive term. How you reframe it can totally change what you think about something when you reword it and put that positive spin on it. Anything's manageable in little bite sizes, right?
Oh, definitely. And in the article, it explains a study that was done through McMaster University and the University of British Columbia, Okanagan. And they concluded that short bouts of exercise, so these physical snacks, like sprinting up a few flight of stairs, can really have great health benefits, especially with your cardiovascular health.
Yes.
So they found that within their study in 2019, they had 12 people grouped into their snack group, they called it. And each person or each participant in the snack group would sprint up 3 flights of stairs 3 times a day. So that was about 60 stairs. And that was their exercise snack. And they found that they improved their heart health by 5% over just 6 weeks, which was pretty incredible.
Awesome. That is incredible. I know when I go away on vacation, I always look for the stairs because I always think that those are little bouts of, and I'm going to reframe it. So I call it my exercise snacking now, but I find it's a quick way because if you don't have time, you're on vacation, you think, going to the gym, but I always find the stairs, my exercise snacking, because it's just a quick way to get your exercise in. Or, in the afternoon, if you're going back to your hotel room or whatever, wherever you're staying, let's take the stairs and I'll get my exercise and my steps in during that time.
I love it. I think that's a great idea. And I know even some people think when they're at work or when they're on vacation and going to their hotel room, they think, I don't have time to take the stairs. I want to take the elevator. But it's amazing
when you reframe it and think about how positive it is for your body and the difference that it can make, it's amazing how you can find the time to do that.
Yeah, exactly. I'll go back to, though, I think you captured it nicely when you said, who doesn't love a snack?
All right. Well, hopefully we can enjoy some snacks this week with our exercise snacking.
Exactly. Maybe we'll go out and I'm going to go grab a snack right now.
There's a thought. Popped up while running. I keep getting taught the same lesson. I talked about this recently, that just getting out there and doing it is so worth it. Even when it's with trepidation that you go out the door, even when you think it's not going to work out, even when your workout's not going the way you hope it is. The rewards are incredible if you can just push through and get that exercise in and move that body. The latest example, it started off with me making a pretty bad mistake. So Sheila and I have this condo in Collingwood. We only get access to it sometimes. It's usually rented out for long-term seasonal rentals. It's in a really cool kind of sprawling condo area, and there's tennis courts and pickleball courts and other things. So we decided to try tennis. All we wanted to do was knock the ball back and forth to each other. I guess they call that doing a rally. And so we were just trying to rally together. It was fun, but so the day we did it, it was one of the first hot days this year. And we went out around 11 o'clock. So, 11 to 1 is kind of when it gets to be the hotter time of the day often. So I threw on my running stuff and said, I'm going to do a 10K after we play tennis. Sheila said, that's great because I'm going to go to the gym. So we both put on our workout stuff. We went and knocked the ball around for half an hour, and then we each went our separate ways. And she had me running back and forth because it was one of the first times she played tennis. So she'd hit it and go left, and then I'd knock it back and she'd hit it, go right. So I did a fair amount of running, but I didn't feel like I'd run very far. But I now, in retrospect, realize I'd started to get a little heated up, and I don't do well in the heat to begin with. So probably not a great thing to do right before I do my first 10K on a hot day that year. So I take off on my run, and I was shocked. I just felt so slow, even right from the start. And I'm like, what is going on? I want to move faster, but my brain's saying go faster, but my body's like, nah, that's not happening today. And by the time I got to 5K, I knew, shoot, like I can easily run 10K without stopping, but it's one of those days I know I'm going to end up doing a little walk run in the last, 40% of this run. And sure enough, I would run for a kilometer and walk for 30 seconds or a minute, and then run, and then a little bit of walking, and was feeling pretty despondent. I mean, it felt not great, but still I got it done. And when I got home, I felt like I know my body now, and I know when things are right, and I know when things are wrong. And I have unfortunately had an experience with what I think was almost like a heat stroke a while back. So I had these minor symptoms of, I think I got a bit overheated today. I can tell by kind of the heat and the chills. So I was a bit worried because the next morning, I would usually run 5K, and I was feeling bad in the mid-afternoon. That night, I went to bed really early, and I was kind of dreading I would wake up a little bit and be like, oh, I'm still not feeling great. I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. Should I go for a run? I don't know. The good news was I woke up and it was cool. It had really cooled down. And I thought, look, just go out, because I was going to do a 5K running around the block. Just go out and see how it goes. And if you're not feeling good, turn around. And can you believe it? I went out. I felt amazing. By going to bed early, I gave myself time to heal. I got a good sleep, a change in the temperature, and it just makes me think, wow, continuing to do regular exercise as part of my everyday life, not only does it feel good, but it's definitely making my body stronger. It's definitely making me more capable of getting through tough times. And the rest of that day at work, I felt amazing, just like I always say. And it was another one of those experiences. It's me. Am I?
Yeah. Just let me say, flip side of the coin.
We did something today that we haven't done in a long time, and it brought back some really great feelings. I really enjoyed it. We haven't gone to an art show, whether it's Art in the Park or Toronto Outdoor Art Exhibit, Art Fair. We haven't done that in a long time.
No.
We ended up throwing our bikes on the Jeep when we came up to Collingwood for a bit.
And we biked downtown. We had to pick up something else. We remembered that last week when we were downtown at the Butter Gallery, they told us they were going to do a 3-foot by 3-foot art show in their gallery this week. So everything's 36 inches by 36 inches. Most of the stuff was framed the same. It was really cool. It was a neat experience, but mostly just brought back those wonderful feelings about being at an art fair.
Yeah, it's so exciting to see new art. And then both John and I have to like the pieces of art when we are looking at them. So we both go and look around, and often we'll walk around twice and not say anything to each other. And then after, we're like, okay, what do you like? What do you like? And oddly enough, there's at least one or two pieces that we both like.
Almost each time. It's a nice rhythm that we've gotten into over the years. Because initially it'd be like, do you like that one? I don't know,
Yeah.
And now we realize that the best thing to do is just look at it all.
Yeah.
And if it's not too big, look at it again and then talk.
Yeah, because I find that if we're looking at it and then we're talking about it, we can talk each other into it, kind of.
Right.
So it's much better just to look and break down. Usually we're both like, okay, we'll pick our top 3, and then we look for 10 minutes or so, and then we talk about it. And I just find it interesting that there's some that we like. But I did want to say 2 things. It was so cool having our bikes here.
Yeah.
Because this is the first time that we've done this. And every other time we're just up here for a few days, 3-4 max, and we're always walking. And it's a good 45-minute walk downtown.
Right. Like 45 minutes.
45 minutes there, 45 minutes back. And so it's a commitment. But biking there is like, woo, no problem. It was so great. And the other thing is, I do want to do a shout out to the Butter Gallery. It's 2 lovely ladies that have opened this up. They've been open for 7 years. If you're ever in Collingwood, you should look at it. It's so adorable and very cool.
Right downtown. So today was kind of our normal experience and really cool, which was we both went around. And by the way, there was one that we saw last week that was a 12 by 12. And it is unbelievable.
Yeah.
It has this light in it. I've never seen anything like it before.
Yeah.
In terms of how the painting brought out the light is sunlight. But anyway, that's kind of another issue.
Yeah, because we're deciding between two of them, and that one is one of them. And
right. And we probably, we may not get either. But
yeah,
just in terms of the experience itself, we went around twice because it was pretty easy to do that. And there was definitely 2 or 3 pictures that Sheila liked that didn't really do much for me. And there was 2 or 3 that I liked that didn't do much for her. But there was one we both absolutely loved.
And it was probably my top. Was it your top?
I think of the big ones it was. Like there's something that really attracts me to that little one. I couldn't get it out of my head last week. Now I know that's bad, and I'm trying to not let that, because I've had that before where I just can't get something out of my head. Yes. So the answer is yes. Of the big ones, it was my favorite. But describe a couple of the other ones you liked, and then we'll talk about that one.
The other ones I liked were hills, very hilly, but colorful.
Yes.
Very different colors than you'd normally see in nature, and abstract, and I really liked them.
A local artist who does hills. There's kind of a rolling hilly area as you approach Collingwood. And she does amazing things. And the colors are colors I've never seen before. It's really interesting. Yeah, I like that one too.
So there were some other ones that I liked, but those were the main ones.
Right.
And it was so cool. It was great to just be back in that scene.
I was surprised because there was an artist who they actually did have a couple smaller ones up. So I'm going to guess these other ones were like 2 feet by 2 feet. And then there was a 3 foot by 3 foot. And it's so weird because it was of nothing.
Yeah.
So
I know you like those. I really didn't do much for me.
One color, kind of the main color. And then from the outside in, there was another color slowly blending into it. And I just loved it.
I know you did.
I can't imagine buying that, at least not right now, but I really enjoyed looking at it. And I think and there was also a couple ships. There was some paintings of ships that I thought looked pretty cool. I couldn't really see having it somewhere where it would fit for a long time.
Right.
But definitely, so I'll quickly describe the one that we both really liked. It is 3 foot by 3 foot, and I'm going to say the bottom third is a landscape type scene, but you don't see the trees and individual stuff. You see green for kind of the grass, and then maybe a beachy type area, earth, and then into blue, which is water. And then most of the painting above it was clouds.
but it was kind of feeling like it, and it was a really cool dark hue of blue.
Mm-hmm.
It felt kind of ominous, like it was a cloudy, rainy day. But meanwhile, in the middle, there was this beautiful, big, puffy white cloud.
I felt like it was coming out of the darkness.
Right.
This puffy cloud, like it was
almost like there was hope.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Please remember that we're not providing advice. We hope to inspire you to work towards balance, and we urge you to consult with qualified people if you need advice. The people on the show are speaking in their personal capacities. Their views expressed are their own, and don't represent the views or opinions of their outside contacts, their employers, or anyone else. We try to get things right, but we can't guarantee everything we say is correct, or that the things we talk about will work for you. Let's be well together, and let's be sure to do that in a safe way.
And it's sign-off time. Hi, everyone. It's Elise Seifert here, joined by John and Sheila Webster.
Hi, John.
Hello, Sheila.
Well, it is a beautiful weekend that we are enjoying. It's a long weekend here in Canada. So I'm enjoying the extra time on the weekend and the beautiful weather. And this week, I'm looking forward to my pottery being put into the kiln. So I've been taking a pottery class, which has been a lot of fun. And now it's time for my pottery to be fired up, and we'll see how it turns out.
Wow. How many pieces do you have that's going to be fired?
I have 6.
Oh, wow. Very good.
So the class allows us to pay for 5, and then you can pay extra for additional pieces. I did end up with a few extra pieces. I just didn't have time to clean them up. So I ended up with 6 pieces altogether.
Oh, nice.
So pretty exciting.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Sheila? What do you have going on?
Well, I have an exciting week going on because I am off all week. This is the first time that I've been off since John and I went to England in October. So I'm very excited.
Wow.
Yeah, it's nice to have some time off. So this weekend has been lovely because Saturday I thought we'd be stuck in the rain, and it actually just rained here in the morning. And then John and I went biking and went to an art show, and it's just been a really lovely weekend, and I'm just hoping that it's going to be the exact same for all this week. So that's what's going on with me. What about you, John?
Well, let me describe the scene first. So we have the podcast stuff in Collingwood, in our place in Collingwood, because we're here for the week.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to try and work from here for a week, so that should be interesting, although Monday is a day off, so it'll be 4 days. But the scene is we are in the second bedroom where there's a very small desk, and that's where the podcast stuff is. And Elise is sitting at the desk with the podcast stuff. And Sheila and I, we have a microphone sitting on a chair, and we're kneeling on the floor, leaning into the mic. And so that's kind of fun, I think.
Well, it is funny because we also, not only are we leaning, but we can't move very much because every time you move, the wire makes a sound and the microwave makes a sound. And so we have to be careful.
Right.
What
So
we're
it's
doing.
a pretty funny picture. I am going to report on a very important thing that I accomplished this week, which I thought was impossible. I got a stopper for our bathtub.
I wasn't sure what you're talking about.
It started by having a stopper that needed to be replaced. And Sheila and I went to a hardware store, and I made the mistake of eyeballing it, thinking, yeah, that looks right.
Mm-hmm.
Got home, it was too small.
Yeah.
So then we were walking downtown. I'm saying, hey, maybe dollar store. Why not try and get one that's basic?
I mean, it's just a stopper. How hard can it be?
Going to the dollar store, and there's one that's like multi-size. It's just got the little part that sticks at the bottom. So if that's a perfect size, great. But if not,
Universal, fits everything.
Yeah, it's got a big top. Didn't work.
No.
Okay, so I measure the actual hole, and I go to hardware
An actual hardware store.
and I say, that one is 1.5 inches. That's what I need. I come back. It's too big.
Oh my goodness.
It barely fit. So finally today I got the 1 3/8 and it is perfect. So it only took 4 tries to figure something very complicated out, but I was successful.
The struggles of homeownership.
Way to go, John.
You are listening to someone who can easily fix the stopper in the bathtub problem with only 4 tries. And that's all I got today.
That's it.
That's it.
You got to celebrate the little things.
Little things in life.
Okay, everyone have a fantastic week, and hope you like the show, and hope you see you again next week.
That is it for today's show. Please try and make wellness a priority.
You deserve it.
If you feel the need to talk to someone or ask for help, please do that.
Accept yourself for the person you are.
So long.